Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. 8 lines from the bottom at the new Mishnah. Our Mishnah discusses drying oneself off after bathing on Shabbos. Now, background to this is what we learned already in the third paragraph of Mem Amud Aleph in regards to bathing on Shabbos. Obviously, a person cannot bathe with water that's heated up on Shabbos. That's malacha mivashel. But even that hot water that was heated up before Shabbos, the Chachamim made a gezerah that one is prohibited from bathing in hot water that was heated up before Shabbos because the balonim, the attendants in the bathhouse, would heat up water on Shabbos, claiming that it was heated up before Shabbos. So the Chachamim answered bathing oneself even in hot water that was heated up before Shabbos. Then subsequently, the Chachamim said even going into the bathhouse and schwitzing, that means sweating, zeya, that itself is also prohibited. Why? Because they said that people were coming to say that they only came into the bathhouse to sweat, when indeed they actually bathed on Shabbos. In addition to that, the Chachamim saw fit to make a gezerah even in Chamei Tiveria, not to bathe in the hot water in Tiveria, in the natural springs, because again, people claimed that they bathed in the hot water in Tiveria when they even bathed in a regular bath that was water that was hot, heated up before Shabbos, and therefore they made a gezerah there. But the last gezerah of the Chamei Tiveria, they saw that the tzibur cannot be oimdin on that gezerah. They wouldn't be able to then withstand such a gezerah, so they retracted. But the first two gzeros of bathing in hot water that was heated before Shabbos and schwitzing, that itself, those two gzeros are in place. With that in mind, the Mishnah says like this: Haroichet b'mei ma'ara, a person who bathes in the water in a ma'ara, in a cave, uv'mei Tiveria, or the waters of Tiveria, v'nistapeg, and he dries himself afilu be'eser alontios, even with 10 different towels, which means there's a little bit of water in all of those towels. Still, lo yavim biyado, he cannot take those towels with him back home, not because of an issue of hoitzah, because maybe he will then be soichet out that water, and therefore it will be an isser of libun on Shabbos. Aval asara b'nei adam mistapkin ba'aluntios achas, but a person can take one towel that was used by 10 different people, pneim, yedeim, vragleim, umevino isom biyotan. If they dried their face, their hands, and their feet, lav dafka, but we're talking about a situation that is typical, that 10 people use one towel, and even though it might have more water, and even though a person might come to squeeze it out, they said it's not concerned because they'll be reminded by the fact that many different people use this, they'll remind them not to go ahead and squeeze such a towel. The Mishnah goes on to say another subject in regards to when one takes care of his body on Shabbos, sachin umimashmashin. It says over here that they used to put oils, they can anoint oils on Shabbos, and they can even massage their skin on Shabbos. However, they must do so with a shinui. Avalo mis'almelin, but they can't do it vigorously. V'lo misgarin, and they can't also scrape with a kli on their bodies. These two things were done in the bathhouse during the week as a way of cleaning oneself, and this would be uvda dechol, and therefore it's also midrabanan. The Mishnah goes on to say, "Ein yardin lekardima." One cannot go down to the area, the river of Kardima, which has clay on the bottom and causes one to slip very easily, whereby if his clothes get wet, he's likely then be soichet. Ve'in oisin apikdizin, a person cannot make, abdizin is really a contraction of apik tfei mozoin. This is a potion that causes a person to throw up, to throw up that which he has eaten. A person can't go ahead and use that on Shabbos because that's an issue of doime l'refuah. Ve'ein ma'atzvin es hakoton, and a person cannot straighten out the bones, the limbs of a koton, of a child, which would be nearer keboine, therefore it's also midrabanan. Vein machzirun es hashever. A person cannot set a bone on Shabbos. The truth is that the Gemara will say that the halacha is indeed that one could, yes, set a bone on Shabbos if it becomes broken. The Mishnah continues and says, Misha nisparka yado v'ragloi lo yitrufim b'tzoinin. If a person dislocated his feet or his hands, then he cannot put cold water directly on those parts. Aval roichet hu kedarkoi. Rather, he should just roichet kedarkoi v'im nisrape, because if he does put cold water directly on it, it would be clear that he's doing it for medicinal purposes, for therapy, and therefore that would be also midrabanan al refuah. Says the Gemara, Ketani, it teaches in our Mishnah that one may bathe, or rather, if one bathe in either the Mei Ma'ara or the Mei Tiveria. Says the Gemara, Ketani Mei Ma'ara Dumia, the Mei Tiveria. The waters of a cave is compared in the Mishnah because it puts it together with the waters of Tiveria. Now we know that the waters of Tiveria, as we said in our Hagdama, is mutter to bathe in. But hot water that was put into a cave, and then a person bathed in that hot watered cave on Shabbos, is osur. Ma mei Tiveria chamin af mei marek chamin. Since the mei Tiveria is talking about the hot springs of Tiveria, so those waters are hot, so too then the comparison is that the Mei Ma'ara in our Mishnah refers to hot water that was put into that Ma'ara. It was heated up, let's say, before Shabbos with fire, and then they took those hot waters and they put it into the Ma'ara, into the tunnels, into the caves. Haroichet diavad in the Chatchila loy. There, when it comes to the hot waters of the Ma'ara, we said it's prohibited to bathe in hot water that was heated up before Shabbos. So therefore we're talking about in a situation where a person did that, he was over the Isser Midirabanan. Whereas when it comes to our case of Mei Tiveria, we said that's L'chatchila. Michlal, says the Gemara, on top of Kuv Mem Zayin with Beis, did lihishtatev kol gufo yafil l'chatchila shaber domi. Since we're saying that the Mei Ma'ara is also to bathe in only bidi eved, if he did so, then we're discussing what he can do in terms of drying himself. But the Gemara now makes a diuk, but to then shower oneself with his whole body with the hot water, that would be mutter lechatchila. Ask the Gemara Mani, who would be the author who says that? Gemara answers, Rabbi Shimon, this is Rabbi Shimon, the Tanya, states in the following brisa. Lo yishtatef adam bein bechamim bein betzoynin, div Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says you cannot shower yourself, not with hot water and not with cold water, because it's similar enough to bathing, and therefore the gezerah extends even to showering. Rabbi Shimon matir. Rabbi Shimon says it's permissible when it comes to either cold water or hot water, because he says it's not similar to the takana that they made in regards to bathing. Rabbi Yehuda says if it's hot water, then indeed it's also. If it's cold water, it's mutter. The Mishnah now is quoted as saying, "V'nistapeg afilu be'eser alontiyos." One can dry himself with even 10 different towels. When one does that, it says, although there's a little bit of water in them, he cannot bring them home with him because he may go ahead and squeeze them out. Says the Gemara, Reisha, and the next part of the Mishnah stated that if it's one towel that's used by 10 different people, then he could go. Says the Gemara, Reisha, the first case of one person using 10 different towels, only by himself he's using it. Ribusa kamashmalon, v'seifa ribusa kamashmalon. And the seifa that teaches that if you can use a towel that was used by 10 different people, that also has a chiddush. Reisha ribusa kamashmalon, the first case where it's one towel, that's a chiddush. Da'afilu hani deloy nafish behumayo. Even though there's only a little bit of water, because it was one person using 10 different towels, still it's also because a person may forget and squeeze out the towel. The Seifa ribusa kamashmalon, and the Seifa is teaching us a chiddush. Afilu hani denefishi behu mayo kivan derabim ninhu midkuri ahadodi. even though it has a lot of water because it was used by 10 different people, but since there are many people that used it, they'll remind him that you cannot go ahead and squeeze out the towel. Therefore, he can go ahead and bring that towel home without a chashash that he'll squeeze it out. Says the Gemara, Vayter Tanu Rabbanon, bring the following brayso: Mistapeg Adam ba'alointis umenicha b'chalon. A person can dry himself out with a towel and he can place it in the chalon as a storage place. V'lo yismiserenu lo'olyarin mipnei shechoshtin al oisod dovar. And you cannot give it over to the balonim, the attendants of the bathhouse, because they're choshid that they may go ahead and squeeze out those towels. Rabbi Shimon oimer mistabig ba'alointis achas umevia biyado l'toich beisoy. Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion, says the brayso, that a person can go ahead and use a towel and bring it subsequently to his house, that he's not concerned that he will go ahead and squeeze it out. Omar le Abai le Rav Yosef. Rabbi asks his Rabbi Rav Yosef, Hilchas Amai, what is the halacha like? Omar le ha Rabbi Shimon, ha Rabbi, ha Shmuel, ha Rabbi Yochanan. All of these sages say that it is mutter. As follows, Rabbi Shimon Hoda Amoran. Rabbi Shimon, like we just quoted, said, if a person bathes and he dries himself out with a towel, he can take that towel and bring it home. We're not chosh is going to then wring it out. Rabbi, the Tanya, Rabbi, as it's taught in the following brayso. Omar Rabbi, Kishahiyu Meidim Torah Eitzo Rabbi Shimon Bitakoya. When we used to learn Torah by Rabbi Shimon in the area of called Takoya, Hayinu Ma'alin Shemin Ba'alointis Mechatzel Legag Megag Lekarfov. We used to bring shemen and a towel in order to again get to the bathhouse. We would go from the chotzer to the gag, and the gag to the karfif. A karfif is also an enclosed area that's not used for residential purposes. Ad shahayinu magin etzel mayan, until they would get to the mayan. In other words, Rabbi Shimon Lishitoso says that a gag, a chotzer, and a karfif, those are considered to be one reshus, even if they're owned by other people, so there's no issue of carrying here. And we would get to the mayan, shayinu roichtzim boy, where we would go ahead and bathe in the mayan. So in order to circumvent any issue of carrying, we would go through the gag and the chotzer and the karfif. But it's apparent from this that they would go ahead and take the towels back with them. They wouldn't leave them over there and be mafkir them. So here too, we see that the shita of Rabbi was that indeed you can take your towel back. We're not choisha that you're going to wring it out. Shmuel the Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Shmuel mistapeg adam ba'alointis umevia biyodoi letoch beisoy. A person can dry himself with a towel and bring it to his house. And again, according to the shita of Shmuel, we're not choishes that you're going to bring it out. Rabbi Yochanan similarly, Dom Rabbi Yechia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan. Halacha mistapeg adam ba'alointis umevia biyodoi letoch beisoy. Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is indeed that a person can take a lointis, a towel, and he can go ahead and bring it to his house after bathing. We're not concerned that he's going to wring it out. The Gemara now challenges this last statement of Rabbi Yochanan. It says the halacha is so. Umi Rabbi Yochanan hachi. Did Rabbi Yochanan indeed say this? V'ha'am Rabbi Yochanan halacha kistam mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan always says the halacha is like stam mishnah. V'tnan, it states in the mishnah. V'nistapeg afilu be'esra lointiyos lo yavim biyodoi. If a person dries even with 10 different towels, it states over here, he shall not bring them in his hands to his home because maybe he will then wring it out. So here we have a Stam Mishnah that says that it's Asr. Answers the Gemara, Hahu keben chachinoi masnilo. Rabbi Yochanan teaches that this Mishnah is altered by Rabbi Chachinoi. And Rabbi Chachinoi, it says at the end of the Mishnah, Divrei Rabbi Chachinoi. So therefore it's not a Stam Mishnah. Says the Gemara weiter, Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan ha'aloyirin mevin blori noshim lebei bonai. He says that the attendants to the bathhouses, they bring towels. They can bring towels to the women, but they have to the bathhouse. Ubilvad, but providing shet yiskase behen roishon veruban, that they would wear these around their heads and the majority of their body, so it wouldn't be an issue of hoitzah when carrying these towels from the Rishus HaRabim. It would be like a levush, whereby it's bottled to one's goof. Sechanisa, also types of kerchiefs. Tzorich lekasher beis rosheh lamato. They would have to then tie them both sides to the heads on the bottom. In other words, also to wear these kerchiefs in a way that's going to be like a levush, should be an issue of carrying. He says it has to be lower than their shoulders, so that again it's worn as a levush. Rava said to the people of Bnei Mechuzah, Ki ma'avirosoi mani lebrechela, when you had Goyish army, different soldiers that are in your locale, in your vicinity, and you're required to do certain things for them by bringing them clothing, and now it's Shabbos, Sharvivu behu lamata meksefayim. So then, indeed, make sure that you're then not just carrying it on your shoulders, but rather it's draped down your shoulder, so that it's as if it's being worn by you. It wouldn't be an issue of hoitzah on Shabbos. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah that says sochin umashmeshin. That means we said that it's permissible to take oil and anoint one's body with oil, and then also subsequently a separate item of massaging one's skin. Tonu Rabbanon, the Gemara brings the following brisa: Sachin mashmeshin bivnei me'ayin, around the intestinal area, b'Shabbos ubevashel yase kederech shehu oiseh b'chol, providing that you don't do the same way that you do b'chol. Ask the Gemara, Heichi Ovid, how should he do? What's going to be a shinui that will not be an issue of uvda dechol? Rabbi Chama bar Chanina Omar, Sach ve'achakach mimashmesh. He should first anoint his body and then massage the skin, because during the week they would do the opposite order. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, Rabbi Yochanan held that they did either order, and therefore his shinui is as follows: Sach mimashmesh bebas achas. You should anoint the body and massage at the same time. That would be considered to be a valid shinui. The Mishnah goes on to say, Aval loy misalmin, but you cannot vigorously massage, rub it in. Omar Rabbi Chia, and massage the skin. Omar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, also la'amoid bekarkiisa shel Yomi Masechet. One cannot stand on the ground of the Yomi Masechet. This is a type of river, because it heats one's body up and it will heal him. It has medicinal purposes, so one cannot stand there on Shabbos. It's the name of a certain river that is very salty. Rav Yehuda Marav, Kol Yameh Shel Yomi Masechet, Esrim ve'echad Yom v'atzeres min haminyan. All of the days that it has medicinal effects, this nahar, the salty waters, is 21 days. And including the 21 days is Shavuos. Iboy Gemara wants to know, Atzeres lahai gisa or lahai gisa? That which you said Shavuos is one of the 21 days. Is it of the beginning of the 21 days, or is it at the end of the 21 days? Says the Gemara, Tashma, the Omar Shmuel said, Kulhu shaikyone, midivcha va'ad atzarte ma'alu. All of these days one can drink, and it will be helpful between the days of Pesach and Shavuos, which is mashma that indeed Shavuos is going to be at the end. Says the Gemara, Dilma no hasam. The reason why over there drinking is beneficial for medicinal purposes, and it ends with the period of time va'atzeres, is because Dilma hasam hu dekama dekorer alma ma'ali. Because there, when the world is cooler, it's colder air, that's more beneficial. Aval hocha, but over here, mishum hevlahu. Here, because of the hevel of the heat, kiven the chamim almo tvei mali. Therefore, when it's hot, it's even better, and therefore atzeres would be the beginning of the period. Says the Gemara, Vayter Amar Bichelboy, Chamro de Prugisa Umaye de Diomoses, Kipchu Aseres Hashvatim Yisrael. The hot waters of Prugisa, the wine rather, of Prugisa, and the waters, the medicinal waters that we just mentioned of Diomoses, they took away the 10 Shvatim from Yisrael. When Assyria was scattered around, the 10 Shvatim, and they got lost, as a result of them taking these waters and these wines and using it for material pleasures. The Gemara tells us the following tragedy. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, Ikloi lahasam. The great Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, he went over there, and Imshech bahasrayu, he was drawn after the the material benefits of the wine and the waters. Akar Talmud, as a result of then going after those material benefits, those pleasures, he forgot his learning. Ki hodar osakam lemikre besifra. When he returned, he went up to read from the Torah. He was called as an aliyah. Boy lemikra hachodesh hazeh lochem. He needed to read the word hachodesh hazeh lochem, and instead he read it differently. Omar said hacheresh hayolibom. So this is an indication that he clearly lost his learning. Bo rabon rachamei alei v'hoder talmudei. The chachamim davened for him, and his wisdom returned. V'hainu disnan. That's what it's teaching. Rab Nehoroi oimer. It says in Avos, have a goyle lemokam Torah v'al toima shehi tavoi acharecha. You shall exile yourself to a place of Torah, but don't say that it'll go after you. She chavercha yikaimu biyodcha v'al binascha. Because your comrades, they will cause it to be lasting in your hands if you're going to then solidify yourself with good chaverim, with good colleagues to learn with, but don't rely on your own bina. The Chazal tell us, and I'll just read the next line before we tell what Chazal say somewhere else. Tano, it states, Lo Rabbi Nehoroi Shmoi. His name was not Rabbi Nehoroi. Here in this Mishnah that we just quoted, that says you should not be goyle other to a makom Torah. Ella Rabbi Nechemia Shmoi's name was Nechemia. Va'amrila, others say Rabbi Elazar ben Arach Shmoi. V'lama nikra Shmoi Rabbi Nehoroi. Why was Rabbi Elazar ben Arach called Rabbi Nehoroi? Sheman here einei chacham b'halacha, because he illuminated the eyes of the chacham with halacha. Now Chazal say in another place that Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, it says in the second parak in Mishnah Avos, that he was the greatest of all the Talmidim, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, ad kedei kach, that it says that amongst the choicest of his Talmidim, he outweighed all of them. And so, even though the Mishnah says over there he was a Mayin HaMizgaber, but nonetheless, we don't find his name in the pages of Shas. And why not? And we're told over here, and it's stated also in another Medrash, that when he was drawn after the wine and the waters, he was situated over there, and he enjoyed those pleasures, and he said to himself, why should I go where my comrades are in Yavne? After all, I am greater than them in Torah wisdom. Let them come to me. In fact, he didn't go, and as a result, he lost his Torah knowledge. This is a person, as the Mishnah says over here, who then said you should be goyle l'makam Torah, because you need to always then strengthen yourself with like-minded people, and even if you are better in terms of Torah learning than others, and they are your Talmidim, nonetheless you have to have them in your sviva so that you can go ahead and strengthen yourself and not then lose your learning. The Gemara says, weiter, quoting the Mishnah, avalom mizgarerin, but you shall not scrape one's skin. One should not scrape his skin with a implement on Shabbos. It's an uvdin dechol. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, im hayu ragla meluchlochos betit uvitzoya gora kedarka ve'ena choshes. However, that's only regards for pleasure. But if you have tit or tzoya on your skin, then it's permissible to go ahead and scrape your skin on Shabbos, and there's no problem of an iser. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda avdalei imei megarose de kaspe. It says over here that Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, his mother made from a special implement that was only used for Shabbos, whereby when he would scrape his skin would not be an issue of uvde dechol.